Thanks for joining us again on GBGuns for another tabletop review. We've got another Sky in. This is the CPX 4 coming up next. So if you've seen the CPX 3 review that we did and you're wondering about the 4, it's essentially the 3 with manual safety. That's really the only difference, but if you're new to Sky or just want to watch anyways to support the channel, I appreciate you hanging with us. So we get this warranty card, which is pretty cool. I'll tell you what, the customer service and the folks at Sky have been impressively good to work with recently. Take a look at the manual. Some of you wonder why I look at the manual. Well, that's for the folks who are new to shooting, maybe new to firearms. I want to see how well the company has described and depicted their own firearm. So here you see we've got nice color renderings. That's not something you normally get. Usually it's the generic black, gray, red, white photos that are kind of hard to see, but this is not bad. Nice detail there. It shows you how to field strip and everything, of course. Let's get that stuff out of the way. Let's get to why you're actually here. We've got the gun. Comes with three magazines. So we've got one in the gun. It's clear. We've got another one that's flat fitting, flush across the bottom, and an additional flush across the bottom. So one pinky rest and two flat bottom. It comes with a trigger lock that's actually functional and on the gun with two keys. I know most of you probably just throw these away or say they're not needed, but they are required by federal law. So I appreciate that Sky has one that actually fits their gun that is applicable to this particular gun. Let me get all this stuff out of the way so we can take a look at the pistol itself. So I zoomed in a little bit for this little guy. We'll check for clear. And one of the things that makes the 3 and the 4 so enjoyable to shoot, in my opinion, is they're 380s, but they are not blowback. You see it says robot quad lock right there. It is locked breech. It actually has the Browning tilting barrel action for cycling the gun. And what that means is it's a lot easier to rack. And it also means you've got a little bit less recoil. Now, it being a hammer-fired gun, the hammer's inside there. See it maybe come back. Release. You'd think that would make the slide racking inconsistent. A tough one if the hammer was down, a light one if the hammer was up. But since this is a double action only, see, I had to cock the hammer there. And the trigger pull, as a result of it being double action only, is long and, although smooth, a little heavier than some people are used to. I'd argue that's perfect for a gun like this that is very affordable and might end up in the hands of someone with less experience or less training, or if you're just like me and you like the idea of being able to strike again if there's any failure to fire. Let's say this is an abused, neglected gun that's been riding around in the truck or in your pack, or it's your camping gun, things like that. That's not going to be well taken care of, and the ammunition might have gotten moist or real hot or real cold off and on throughout the years. If it doesn't go the first time, chances are it'll go the second time, and if it doesn't then, you rack it, kick that out, and go. Not as if you really need to conserve too much ammunition, because you do have a double stack magazine, and you get 3 mags for pretty decent capacity. When you're effectively getting 10 rounds, I mean you are getting 10 plus 1 rounds of 380, and although some people might mock or challenge 380's validity as a defensive round, I've seen studies that say the counter, and if you're still one of those people that wants to say no, will you volunteer to be shot by a 380? I didn't think so. So with the safety on, the trigger goes completely dead, but you still have the ability to rack and operate. I like that the safety is up for off, down for on, because in today's high thumb style of shooting, that means you can rest your thumb right on it, very much like a 1911. This indentation here makes for a great spot to rest your other thumb, and it also, on the other side, makes for a good spot to put that trigger finger when your finger's straight. So let's take a look around the gun. Start in the front as we always do. Vertical play, we have some. Side to side play, we have some. Barrel is not moving on the end and is definitely locked up in that slide. Not getting any movement there other than the slide moving a little bit. No place for a rail, which might be a deterrent for some. However, there are lasers made specifically for this that kind of clamp on and around and grab on the trigger guard. So not a huge deal there. We do have a rather straight back with a slight relief for the finger. I can get 2 fingers on here, but just like with the Glock, my large hands end up kind of on the high spots instead of the low. That's just, I guess, what I get for taking my vitamins when I was a kid. With the pinky rest finger in there, I can get all 3 fingers on here, which makes it comfortable to shoot. Magazine ejection is a little more release than eject, but the magazines do fall freely, easily. We don't have any extra serrations or traction on the front aside from the finger rests, which do help, believe it or not. Your recoil wants to lift the gun, cause muzzle rise, and these ledges will catch on your fingers and prevent that. We have some texturing here on the side, not a whole lot. No beveling of the magazine well. That's because this is a defensive gun and an incredibly affordable gun. I would not expect anyone to be running this in a competition or competition type series where you're going through multiple magazines. We have nice texturing on the back strap. Looking at our slide to frame fit, we have a little bit of play there as we saw on the front. And here is our 3-dot sight picture. Nice bright dots, very easy to pick up, and you have the serrations here that provide styling, but also in limited light give you a general idea of the direction of the gun. Coming around, we see that the safety is on both sides, and the magazine not releasable, but I'm sure most of you lefties like me have either learned to shoot with your right hand or just use your middle finger. Next, we'll field strip the gun and take a look inside. So field stripping the CPX4 comes apart just like the 3 did. If you're not familiar with that, we're going to, of course, check for clear and lock the slide to the rear. I like it when guns require slide lock prior to doing any field stripping, because that gives you a very valid reason to check the chamber. So we know we're clear, and then in here, you're gonna stick, the instructions say a screwdriver. I found that the back end of most casings work. This is a 76239 case that I just had laying around. And pull that pin out. With that out, you let the slide go forward, pull the trigger, and the slide comes off the frame. Pretty easy. You can see we've got nice long rails there. A little bit of wear just from my racking, but the gun ships fairly dry. But it is a full length rail, almost a little bit of a chassis that everything sits in inside of this polymer frame. And you can see our hammer is completely disabled, on safe, and on fire in this position. There's our ejector. It's got a little bit of play to it. Our action rod is metal and has a flat spring on it. It's captured spring, so you don't have to worry about it flying anywhere. We'll unlock the barrel, slide it forward and back. And you can see we've got a beautiful feed ramp, nicely polished. Looks good inside there. And despite how many of these have been cranked out, not a lot of machining marks inside the slide. Some, but not a ton. These guns are incredibly affordable, and so I'm sure they sell the dickens out of them. I'm going to grab around and we'll take a look at case support. So for those of you not familiar, the chamber support can be important if you're running a hot load, that's plus B or plus B plus, aluminum casings or recycled brass, because if there is a blowout, if the brass or the casing fails, you want as much support as possible This does not support all the way. You can see underneath there, a little bit past this shoulder. That's much like the older Glocks. It's not a big deal. It just means you might want to take that into consideration before using any recycled brass or aluminum casing. We will shoot aluminum casing through this. I'm fairly certain we still have some for our What's for Dinner. If you're not familiar with What's for Dinner, that's where we run 10 different loads through the gun to get an idea for what it'll cycle on. It's not a pass-fail for the gun, not a pass-fail for the ammo. Rather, it is how we find out what the gun wants to work on and what it doesn't, so that you don't have to worry about that. Now, in reassembling, you see I've pulled back enough to line up that hole there. That's where we need to make sure the pin goes. Pardon that noise, that was my beard rubbing on the two giant 440 watt lights that are next to me to make sure we got plenty of lighting here. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Let me consult the manual real quick, because it has been a minute since I put one of these together. Turns out I was a bit premature on trying to place that. It says you want to pull it back, slide all the way, and lock it in place, and then move the barrel here to make sure you got that window clear. You can see there. I'm going to put this in a little divot up. Slide that all the way in. Let the slide go back forward. Quick functions check. And you can see that everything is working just fine. So in the What's for Dinner, we'll take a look at various hollow points. There's a lot of defensive rounds out there in .380. .380's been around for a long time. It's one of John Moses Browning's designs, so it's pretty cool to have American round and an American gun. And I really got to hand it to Sky for the value they've been providing for the low prices these sell for. There are aftermarket triggers, or rather trigger kits, that change the mainspring. You can see the mainspring, if I can get the light in there just right. There we go, that little bit of shimmer in there. And some other things to lighten this pull. When we shot the CPX3, we didn't have any troubles with it, but I am curious what those kits do. So we might install that kit in this prior to our review, because everything else is just like the CPX3. And I highly encourage you to go check out the CPX3 review that we did, because the gun was really impressive and we really enjoyed it. Our only complaint was the sights being slightly off, but that's easily adjustable. And it could also easily be because when you have a small gun and large hands, you tend to want to squeeze, and that throws things a little bit left. But incredibly affordable gun, 10+1 capacity of 380, and that double action reassurance of being able to fire again. Also, if you want to practice your trigger pull, it's really easy to do with double action only, because there's no resetting or anything like that. My hat's off to Sky for providing such a value of 3 magazines in the case with this little thing, and a gun that, at least the 3, worked pretty darn well. We'll get out to the range with this guy and let you know how the 4 does here shortly. Thanks for watching.